everybody. This is B-Bake from Baker Brothers and Revelations Primo. So, as I said in my American Pop review, after Lord of the Rings, there was a sort of decline in Bakshi's work in terms of quality films. I think American Pop is alright, and it's definitely not as bad as the movie I'm going to review today, Hey Good Lookin. Oh God, I hate this movie. This movie has an interesting premise, but it reeks of a bad payoff. For some reason, this one tried to do what Fritz the Cat, Heavy Traffic, and Coonskin did so very well, but just fell flat right on its face. The reason I think this movie is such a stinker is because Bakši's films before this one, Wizards, Lord of the Rings, and American Pop, were so different and diverse, and they didn't have to rely on the same old tired experimental film thing that Bakshi was doing. He was making pretty good, reasonable budget films, and they had some quality and story to them. So I felt like this film was an unnecessary throwback to those movies. But then I found out that this movie was actually made before Wizards. Yeah, it's a weird story, but we'll get to that when we finish talking about the story of the film. And yes, we're going to be using parentheses again to describe this movie. So the story, in short, is about a 50s greaser named Vinny who just hangs around with his friends at night and gets caught up in the middle of a rumble with a rival gang. And that's about it. Stretched over 70 minutes long. At first the premise seems kinda cool and the dialogue is fun, but as the film gets going it gets more boring and loud and obnoxious and stupid and tries too hard to be a Looney Tune cartoon rather than take itself serious like Bakši's other work. Let's rush through the main characters because none of them are good and I just want to get this out of the way. So yeah, Vinny. Yeah, he looks cool, but he's a douchebag and I don't like this character. Crazy is one of the worst characters in any Bakshi film. Yep, worse than Sam. Rosie is probably the only reason why I kept watching the movie. She's probably the hottest girl in all the Bakshi films, and yes, I know she's a cartoon, but come on guys, look at those boobs. This is ridiculous. She is smoking hot. Drawn so well, it's like she's based off a real-life person. The villains of the film are called the Black Chaplains. Now, I want to stop you for a second. I have no problem with an African-American being a villain in a film, but it just seems weird that Bakshi, who made Coonskin, one of the most non-racist movies ever, but got accused of being racist because it used stereotypes to invoke the hardships of being an African-American in America, was so cool because it totally destroyed all of those stereotypes. And then Ralph Bakshi goes and makes this movie, which brings them back. It's ridiculous. Like, what was going on in his head when he was making this movie? Now, the film is awful, but it has some really funny lines of dialogue. I'm just going to play you my 3 favorites, so you don't have to waste your time watching the movie to hear them.
You really love Rosie? I don't know. Yeah, I love Rosie. But you know, you gotta keep your head, man. Just because you're getting a little bit, doesn't mean that it's really love, This girl's gotta do something else to prove she really loves you. What? I don't know. Something, What? Something. What? Blowjob.
How'd you know I was here?
Hey, man, I ain't stupid. I'm the leader of the Stompers, My job to know where you are all the time.
Oh, yeah. Where was I last night, fucker?
Eating watermelon.
Somewhere in my heart, I know you're gonna fight those chaplains just for me, Vinny. You can squeeze my tits now if you want to.
The soundtrack is terrible. It's some of the worst songs I've ever heard in a film. It's a bunch of wannabe 80s trying to be 50s cheese pop. It's 100% pure music garbage.
Gonna have me some fun. I get so nervous when my work is done. Black leather jacket and alligator shoes. Don't need nobody to light my fuse.
To explain the production of the film is a lot more interesting than actually talking about the movie itself. After production concluded on Coonskin, Bakshi wanted to make a movie in which live-action actors would interact with animated characters. Bakshi began writing the screenplay for Hey Good Looking while editing Coonskin. It got the attention of Warner Brothers, who had previously disagreed to distribute Fritz the Cat because of it being an X-rated movie, but were very eager for the screenplay of Hey Good Looking and greenlit the film in 1973. Several African-American animators were hired by Bakshi Studios at a time when black animators were not widely employed by major animation studios. Following controversy over Coonskin, some black animators left Bakshi Studios, and this is one of the reasons why Hey Good Looking turned out bad. Principal photography began in '74. The budget was $1.5 million. Pre-production lasted for a week, including casting, and some of the shots that they shot in New York were so dark and bad that they couldn't use them for the final version of the movie. During the rumble sequence, the actors playing the Chaplins were filmed popping and performing a dance which would later evolve into breakdancing. It was a style of dancing that wasn't even heard of in the 1970s, so in a way this film is the first movie to record breakdancing. How flattering. After the film wrapped, Warner Brothers president Frank Wells told the film trades that Hey Good Looking needed to be fine-tuned, and claiming that Bakshi needed to revamp the dialogue and reshoot some scenes because they were not tested well with a market-researched audience. The majority of live-action footage was deleted because Bakshi wanted to keep the breakdancing sequences, so he used rotoscoping but couldn't finish the rotoscoping due to budgetary problems. The film was shelved for a long time until the success of American Pop came along. Warner Brothers wanted to release this one out so they could cash in on that success, but it really didn't do that well except in foreign markets. The original print of Hey Good Looking still exists in the Warner Brothers studios, and to be honest, it'd be kinda interesting to see. But this movie is so bad. In fact, the only reason why it doesn't have a DVD release is because it's a really bad movie. It's not like Coonskin, which is controversial and a good movie. This movie stinks and it's not sellable. No one wants to watch this movie. Well, except for Quentin Tarantino, who for some reason prefers it over Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets, which makes no sense at all, because this movie is terrible. I hate this movie. It stinks. It's not one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but it's really bad. It is a bad movie, and it's sad to see Bakshi making something big and epic like Lord of the Rings and something colorful and creative like American Pop, and then seeing this garbage. I give this movie a 1 out of 5. I hate this movie and I don't recommend it except if you really want to watch all the Bakshi films. Other than that, please stay away. Oh, and the YouTube version sucks because the quality is so bad. So, yep, that's all I gotta say. I'll see you later.